Hello, we are live here on YouTube. So, looking forward to seeing you guys. I see some comments already here in the chat. Hey, George, good to see you. Good afternoon, William from New York City. Good to see you. Yes, and here's George. So, yeah. Another week of smart home tech news and just all kinds of different projects I've been working on over here. We're starting to we're not quite to the season of like all the products that were talked about at CES start coming out, but we're getting closer to that. And man, it's hard to believe that the Super Bowl was like already like a week ago at this point. I've had 2 weeks with Apple Vision Pro, so that's been exciting. One thing that was big in the news this week for Apple Home was just this MacRumors added more context to what we talked about last week, which is that they've been finding references to Home OS in the 17.4 betas. And that there's this Z314 device that's supposedly running an A15 chip. I think that's an interesting. Now I have an old question on here. Sorry about that. I think it's a interesting idea to think about that we could be coming up on an iPad event this spring, and potentially Apple could bundle something like this in an iPad March event, which would be really exciting. Now, it could just be a series of press releases. The HomePod 2 pictured here came out with just a press release and, some briefings for the media, including myself. So we'll see. I would love to see it. I think the real telltale sign of this is that they ported the SwiftUI framework, which is Apple's sort of cross-development framework for developers to make the user interface, the stuff you see on the screen, for all of their devices. You can write something in SwiftUI and then have it run on Mac, on iPhone, on iPad, on tvOS. And so to have SwiftUI coming to another platform from Apple, and of course Vision OS as well, another platform from Apple, I think that makes a lot of sense. And also leads me to think that there might be a developer story here about third-party apps it could run, whether that's just widgets or something more elaborate. I think that could be a real unique thing Apple could bring that, you don't see a lot of custom apps for things like Amazon or Google displays. I think in certain cases it's possible, but I think Apple could bring a real edge there where some of their developers could have some nice custom experiences on a display like that. I mean, that said, of course, Apple hasn't had the best reputation with their developers recently with some of the stuff like the DMA. So we'll see. But I'm going to go ahead and say hi to some of you guys in the chat as you've been joining. Good to see people. Hello from Norway, Samuel. Yes. Very cool to see you there. John Imperial, what's up? Nice to see you, John. John has an amazing Instagram for all kinds of desk setup and office stuff. I'm going to pull up actually his website here. We'll pull up his Instagram page. Let me show you guys his stuff. Very cool creator. So there's John Imperial's Instagram page. And here's his website. So great to see you in the chat. Thanks for joining, John. Go check him out if you're into desk setups and office setups. And speaking of that kind of stuff, I've actually been rearranging my office. I'm going to talk about that, I guess, right now, which is I've been wanting a better place to use my Apple Vision Pro, because I know some people are have different takes on it. I think it's one of those products that fits some people really well and doesn't for others. For me, I really see a lot of benefit from it, especially for times when I need to focus on something. Not so much for software development, but for other sort of creative tasks, writing, things like that, thinking about things, planning, um, even some light, admin work like email sometimes. Um, and just changing up my day. So I like have that different environment I go into for a period of time and then come back to my office. And I'm finding I'm really enjoying it more with native Vision OS apps more than like Mac mirroring and iPad apps. I mean, those are nice to have, but it's not, it's almost making me reconsider things like, do I use Apple Notes more than I currently use Obsidian for a lot of my notes? And that just has an iPad app on Vision OS, but of course, Apple Notes has a Vision OS app and it works nicer, I think. So, but yeah, here's, I'll show you guys. I added back this leather chair, which you might have seen from the channel ages ago. I used to do videos in this, brought it back out of storage. So this is sort of my Vision OS chair. Again, I don't have a lot of room here in my office space, but I moved where my desk is to sort of be at the other wall. So this is with the Insta360 camera panned around. Oops, there's that. So I'm gonna quickly cut back to this camera so you don't have to see that pan around so much again. But yeah, so that's been sort of my setup, and so far it's working out pretty well. But it kind of took a lot of time just to rearrange things. Sunday afternoon last weekend, did a lot of the rearranging here. And of course, when you have layers of wiring and smart home tech and stuff coming to the desk and everything, it takes some time to restructure. I still haven't finished all the little bits of it. Hello from Las Vegas. Thanks, James. Nice to see you here. Yeah, would really love to see Apple create a home dashboard. I completely agree, William. I think, knowing Apple, it'll probably come more in the form of Home OS with a new product rather than using an iPad. I wouldn't be surprised if on the hardware side, a new smart display from Apple shares a lot of elements of an iPad, especially because I think it's a product that for them isn't going to have quite as big of a market. So if they can sort of share a lot of components with a basic iPad, it could help them maybe keep the cost down and things like that, and maybe help it be updated more frequently for us. Yes, John and his setups are awesome. Forever envious of what he's able to do. Good sense of style. Yes. Yes. Is that a corded phone on my desk? So this used to be in another part of my office, speaking of rearranging it, but that is, so here I can show you. I gotta be careful with my, unfortunately, it shows the phone number for it on the front of the phone. So I don't know how I can show it to you on the live stream without getting it in focus, but it's a Ubiquiti phone. Basically I had some reasons, long story short, where I needed, or it was nice to have an additional phone number. And, as you might know, I'm into Ubiquiti networking. So I have their, Ubiquiti Wi-Fi all around, and then their Unify Protect cameras. And then this is their Unify Talk, which is their mostly intended for small businesses, but like their phone system that's voice over IP, and it's $10 a month to have an additional, a phone number through them. So I did that, and then I have this corded phone here on my desk. So it actually works out pretty nicely. And then I can also just tap on the screen here, and now because I just plugged this back in with Power over Ethernet, so it needs to like log into my Unify account. But usually I can pull up the cameras here on the desk and see them, which is nice. If I'm like watching for a delivery from, someone out in the front yard, I can just keep the driveway camera on here and see a live view there. So that's always nice. So, oh yes, you got the Roborock S8 Pro Ultra. Good. And sounds like it's good to hear that your lady's loving it. Good Valentine's Day present. Bring some cleanliness to the house. That's nice. I think the S8 Ultra is really nice. It's actually what my parents are using right now, and they enjoy that. Um, Yes, I'd love to FaceTime with you, John. We should do that sometime. Personas are pretty cool. I like how when you're FaceTiming with someone in Apple Vision Pro, how it sort of does some spatial audio stuff to try and make it sound like they're coming from where they are. Um, it also changes some when you go into the different environments. So it'll change based on whether it's in your room that you're in or whether you're in an environment. There's a really good discussion. If you haven't seen it already, I'm going to put a link to it in the chat of John Gruber and Adam Lissagore. John Gruber's the sort of famous Apple blogger over at daringfireball.net, and he has the podcast, the talk show, and he talked with Adam Lissagore, who's a good friend of his and also sort of a famous online video maker. He's made a lot of hit videos and commercials for different products over the years. I think both guys are very smart about, John, of course, with following Apple, but then Adam in terms of visuals and software and graphics and all kinds of details that correlate to the Vision Pro. And so it was a really good discussion. The YouTube video is the sort of them talking with their personas, which looks kind of funny. I'm going to show what that looks like here. Safari. Yeah. So, whoops, here, publish. There we go. Back to live mode. There we go. So you should be able to see that now. So yeah, this is the, what their personas look like, but it's a good episode. I actually listened to it on a podcast form. That's usually what I do with that show, but, yeah, worth checking it out. They have some clever things to say about Vision Pro. So, let's see. And then I got the Eve outlet. I still haven't tested it out yet. I've had that week of rearranging my furniture in my office, and then I've had a lot of stuff with my day job this week. So, haven't gotten around to testing the Eve outlet, but I'll be letting you guys know about it. I'm excited about my video for this weekend is going to be more Apple Vision Pro focused. I know there's been a lot of content around Apple Vision Pro lately on social media. Since I'm really enjoying the device, I think I might just continue to make it more a part of my part of the content I make. I'm obviously never going to abandon smart home tech. That's sort of the core of what I talk about, but Apple, and I think Apple Vision Pro is something that's interesting to me. So if it continues to be something you guys are interested in too, I'll probably on and off again, as I have interesting things to say about it, make some videos that here and there on it. So, but overall, it's been a little bit of a quieter week. Not too much going on the week after the Super Bowl. Oh, thank you, Sam. Super chat test. So yes, thanks for that, Sam. Great to see you here in the chat. Been talking with Sam earlier this week. Yeah, any questions you guys have around smart home tech? Other sort of questions about Apple related news, things I'm finding with my various Apple products. Oh, as I'm picking this up to have water, I should note, this is something that's sort of another way Apple Vision Pro has changed my life. Not a clickbaity title at all, but I used to use a lot of water bottles and other ways to drink stuff that's like where you tip it up, and then of course as you have a headset on, it's way easier to have straws. So I've gone sort of the tumbler lifestyle now for water, as well as I've actually converted. So Hydro Flask makes coffee mugs as well, and then I got one of these same lids and clipped the straw. So I actually have, like, I can drink my hot coffee through a straw in a similar way in the mornings, but it's upstairs ready to go in the dishwasher at this point in the day, since it's afternoon here. But yeah, obviously you got to be it's not how Hydro Flask intends you to use their products, because you could probably burn yourself if you make your coffee too hot. But as long as I let it cool down, it seems to be just fine, and that way I can drink stuff easier when I'm in a headset. um Good, you got your location issues fixed, Brian. Yes, yeah, you moved everything to a new home. um Totally. That's can be pretty annoying. I've been Speaking of automations, I've been continuing to play more with Home Assistant. I don't really have much to say on it right now, but like I'm really continue to be interested in Home Assistant as sort of like a future way to, like, you get into Apple Home, you use, your add some accessories to your Apple Home app, set up some automations there. You get all your rooms set up, you get your zones, maybe get, a few HomePods, Apple TVs. Beyond that, when you're trying to sort of like take it to the next level of advanced automations and things, there's like Homey Pro and Home Assistant, and I really think there's a lot of cool opportunities there. Just one other video, we were talking about Home Assistant. Are you still liking your SmartWings shades? Whoops, cancel. Are you still liking your SmartWings shades? I actually have not tried SmartWings shades yet. I am I'm talking actually to SmartWings right now, and they have asked me to go measure some shades, spots for shades in my home, so they can send me some so I can test them out. I talked to them at CES, and I mean, I know Shane Watley and other creators have talked about SmartWings in the past, so seems like they have good products. I haven't tried them myself, so going to be doing that here one of these days. But one cool video, let me pull up another cool video to go. That I saw with Home Assistant. What is it? Oh, it's on a second channel. So Reed, from Smart Home Solver, or Smart Home Solver, he, yes, gotta go, John. Nice to see you. Thanks for stopping by. No worries, Kevin. This is a really cool automation for, whoops, there we go. This is a really cool video to check out later, and I'll leave these in the description if you're watching this later. I'll put these videos in the description as well that I've been linking or talking about. But Reed did this whole thing where he went ahead and made an automation with Home Assistant where it can see which apps he opens on his Apple TV, and then it changes the lights depending on different conditions. And I thought that was really cool. I haven't tried this myself. He has some templates in here, but I think it's pretty creative, and it's like, it's one of those things where Apple isn't giving us those hooks, right, to get some of those ways to automate through the Home app, at least yet. But some clever developers are able to find other ways to do those same kind of things. So I thought that was pretty cool. Should I use Homebridge or go straight to Home Assistant? Good question, Sam. I think I don't know. It's hard to say, because I do like Homebridge as far as a way to, Homebridge is more, hence the name bridge. It's more about connecting the core idea of how it started was connecting your existing stuff you already have with your Apple Home. So maybe you have some let's say, I don't know, GE Sync lights or some other things that, like, you have Unify cameras, various other things that don't talk to Apple Home directly. You can add them in with Homebridge, and I've used Hoobs. Hoobs sent me one of their boxes ages ago, and I continue to use it on and off. But I mean, it depends on if you are interested in getting into home, it depends on like, I would say if you see yourself trying to get into advanced automation pretty quickly, then I would say just go the route of Home Assistant. But um, it's not, I don't find Home Assistant incredibly intuitive. So, if you're just looking for sort of a set it up and forget it, then I would probably go the route of Homebridge, um, because then you can still do a lot of your automation in Apple Home, which is actually, I mean, I'm kind of poo-pooing it right now in conversation, but it's like you can do a huge amount of smart home automation in Apple Home, and then especially if you add in things like shortcuts from your own personal device with personal automations and stuff. There's a lot of power, especially if you use a lot of Apple devices already. So I would say go Homebridge unless like you are already sort of a very tech savvy person and already work with a lot of automation in other ways, and you're thinking I just want to dive into the deep end, then go for something like Home Assistant. Um, I have the Home Assistant Green, and I mean, there's like 100 different ways to run Home Assistant. That seems to work well for me. It was very easy to set up and just comes pre-configured with everything. One of the problems for all these boxes lately is just that like Raspberry Pis are hard to get a hold of in pretty much every form. So look around, different options you have. I mean, Hoobs might be one, that, something like Hoobs or something like Home Assistant Green, where they're sort of taking care of getting the Raspberry Pi type hardware for you, is kind of nice. Even if you know how to set up a Raspberry Pi, it's like it might be hard to find one that's spec'd up enough to what these devices want. Sort of, I think it's generation 4 we're on right now with Raspberry Pi. I lose track. I don't really follow that space closely. But yeah, keep that in mind. And you can also run these things usually on a Mac, especially with like a Docker container, if you know what that is, or something like a Synology disk station. You can sometimes run stuff there. So different options to consider as you're looking at what hardware to run it on, especially then if you already have like a Mac that's always on, or you already have a Synology disk station or something like that, then you're not out extra money to do something like Homebridge or Home Assistant, because you can just run it on your existing hardware. But just keep in mind that the less beefy the hardware is to support it, the more potential you have slower automations or slower performance or other issues down the road as you add a lot of accessories. And you also might not have some of the built-in radios that some of these devices use. Like a lot of people add various radios um, to their Home Assistant hubs, and that's where something also then like Homey Pro comes in, because Homey Pro is sort of another option that's more like a um, completely pre-done solution. So this is Homey Pro. Again, I have one of these to test, but I haven't played with it enough to really give a conclusion on it. But I know Shane Watley is a big fan of Homey Pro, so um, I think that's just something to consider. I've heard a number of people say they really like how Homey Pro lays out their automations with this nice flowchart. I think it's really cool. My one concern about Homey Pro is just that I feel like Home Assistant is getting so much momentum out there that it might sort of that might become where the innovation is happening, just because that's where more of the attention is. It's never a guarantee, but when you're looking at something like a Homey Pro, I mean, it's not cheap. You're spending $400 plus an Ethernet adapter, which you probably want. So a significant investment. Now, you're probably going to spend more than $200 worth of your time getting Home Assistant set up and working out all the details. So consider that this kind of a product might save you time. And hopefully they'll continue to support it years and years on in the future. I mean, I think they have the best of intentions to do that, but sometimes even products don't necessarily go away. But I think, for example, Hubitat is another hub that had a lot of innovation for a while and a lot of attention, but it's kind of slowed down in recent years. So, anyways, I'm going to go back to the chat here. Definitely think about switching from Homebridge to Home Assistant just for the automation possibilities. Yeah. Makes sense. Maximus, you use a Sprute.hub for my home. It's like Hoops. I have not heard of this. Pulling up their webpage now. Cool. There we go. Oops. I have a question here on this. There we go. So nice. Some of this, I guess, Cyrillic characters. I'm not super, good at reading all of this, but nice. And so they, like Hoobs, they have sort of, I guess, the little, like a USB stick. Oh, that's cool. Interesting. Yeah. Some of this is, of course, in characters and language that I can't read. So leave it at that for now. But looks really compelling, very similar to Hoobs. Let's see. Question from, there we go. Question from William again. And I have tenants. I want to add smart locks to my entry doors, and I want them to have access to them. Do you have to set up a new smart home, or can I add them to my existing smart home? Well, I think the best option there would probably the simplest option would just be something like a smart lock that has a keypad on it, because then you can add any number of PIN codes. Like on my Slagen Code Plus, I can add any number of PIN codes, and then I can see a running log of which PIN codes were used at which time, which could be handy. I don't know. Maybe that's a privacy invasion if you have tenants. I'm not familiar with all those laws, but I think that could be a good option. As far as giving them like remote control of the smart lock, there's been, hold on, there are a number of companies that do sort of multifamily locks and systems for more like official apartment complexes where they're, like in the business of renting apartments, like as their main thing. Doesn't sound like that's the case for you, but then, you could potentially look at something. I know Level has added some support for multifamily homes. So there are sort of options out there, but then you start to get into more complex systems. I think probably your easiest bet is just to have again, as I mentioned, the keypad. There's another thing with this. There was talk for a while when HomeKey came out that you would be able to share a HomeKey pass, and I haven't had a need to do that. But I'm looking now to see, because that could be another option too, is if you needed to. Okay, yeah. So this is what Apple says about, here, let me pull this up. This is what Apple says about locks for guests. You can enter access codes basically in the Home app, which is what I've done for family members. And you could probably do the same for tenants. But again, they would have to punch in their access code to get in and out of the lock door. So I don't know. I mean, it would be really nice because if you have a HomeKey lock, you get this pass in wallet that is like your Apple Home key. And it'd be really nice, just like you can share an airline boarding pass or all kinds of other wallet passes. Like if you could just share that to somebody else's phone, and then they could unlock your door as well with that shared pass. But I imagine there's something there with sort of the NFC chip in your particular phone that somehow has to be tied to it, but maybe not. I mean, anyways, that'd be really cool if you could do that, but I don't think that's gonna happen anytime soon. Yeah, no, I haven't heard anything about Level's Matter support. I'm with you on that. I haven't been following that story super closely myself, but yep, I don't see anything here about Level and Matter support. So I tried a while ago a Level bolt. Now, that was me a few years ago buying the bolt myself. I haven't really spoken directly to Level myself in terms of like getting review units from them. One of the challenges I found with the Level compared to some other smart locks is just that because of the size with their Level bolt, and maybe they've improved this with their full lock, is just that the motor that pushes the bolt in, that isn't very strong. And so sometimes it can maybe struggle compared to other motors in locks that can have enough strength to deal with any kind of like small resistance. Obviously, like if your door's crooked, it's not going to lock no matter what lock you put on it. But like it just seemed, in my experience, the Level bolt was a little more sensitive to any kind of resistance. Now, that said, if you have like a nice, relatively new front door that like is lined up just fine, then that shouldn't be an issue. But just something to consider there if you're looking at the Level products. Let's see. All right. We're right at 30 minutes already. Man, time flies by. Any other smart home questions, things to discuss? Apple Vision Pro questions, comments, things to discuss? My YouTube video this weekend is actually going to be on some Apple Vision Pro cases. I think I found the ultimate Apple Vision Pro case for both, and also the ultimate method of storing your Apple Vision Pro well at home. So those are sort of my topics for this weekend. Oh, yes. That makes sense. Yeah, the nice thing about Level is that like the bolt. So I should clarify that for those watching if you're curious, but level.com is not what I want to go to. It's level.co. There we go. Yes, let's share Safari here. So the nice thing about Level is that this is their bolt. So you don't even have to change the outside part of your locks. So you don't even know necessarily that it's a smart lock, which is pretty cool in concept. And then you're just changing out this part of your lock. And then they have the Level Lock Plus, which has like the outside hardware. So and this is a cool comparison from them. Of course, here's some other smart locks and just how small the Level Lock Plus is. Again, as I was mentioning, it comes with trade-offs, but and now Brian's question disappeared from the screen. But yeah, you might have HOA requirements. Other people you live with might not like the look of a smart lock. Chances are Level could sort of solve some of those problems for you. This is also an interesting concept too that Level has, and I've heard of this from, I think maybe some other locks as well. I can't remember which one off the top of my head, but they have like a key fob thing here. Isn't this a key fob? Yeah, key cards. So you can have NFC key cards to use as keys. So you could sort of, in a situation where you need to share access to the lock, whether that's a rental or some person coming to work on your house or help with your house, you could give them one of those key fobs, and then that might be easier than having to use a physical key. Also, then they're not getting it copied somehow. You can't copy the NFC card probably as easily as you can just go to a hardware store and get an old-fashioned key copied. So that's a cool feature of some of these locks too. Especially so this is the Level Lock Plus Connect. Now, keep in mind, I've not tried this lock, so I'm not necessarily recommending it based on my own experience, but it looks pretty cool, and I have heard good things from other people. Oh, sure. Yeah. So you want them to have access to certain locks, but not to others. That makes sense, of course. And I think then the key codes would be specific to particular locks if you used a lock with a keypad on it. So there's that side of it. Also, if you did something like this where maybe some of the locks had a NFC card and others didn't, then that could be a way to solve that. Looking here at my smart home news feed to see anything else that came up that was worth discussing. Yeah. All right, guys. It's been a good chat, and looking forward to hopefully seeing you again next week for another live stream. Thanks so much for joining me. And until next time, have a good one. I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks.